everyone, and welcome to Get Celebritized. I'm your host, Aurea McGarry, where I help you earn more, live more, and give back more by bringing you amazing people who are doing just that, living big, audacious, wonderful lives, or their charities or nonprofits, or they're successful business owners that do their business so well they give back in a big way to charities and nonprofits. And maybe some of them have had a pivot after the pandemic, or they've had a life altering event or an illness, and they've been able to bounce back. Well, I bring you all sorts of cool people that have those stories of resiliency and they're living their best legacy. There's no magic pill. There's always ways to help you make it through a day better than you did before. So today is no exception. I'm bringing on a really dear friend of mine. I've probably known Tom Martin now for at least 10 years. We'll talk when I bring him up. He's the founder of Tom Martin Media, and he was one of my first publicists back in the day when I wrote my first book. He's a journalist, media strategist, and an author and a masterful connector. This guy knows everybody. Well, almost everybody. He was 20 years as a network TV producer, serving with high-profile journalists such as Charlie Rose, Diane Sawyer, Charlie Gibson, just to name a few. He used to host a podcast titled On the Road with Tom Martin, and he now is a PR publicity coach for people that want to be on PR, on TV, selling and promoting what they do, their books, but doing it well to stand out amongst the crowd of people that aren't prepared for their 15 minutes of fame. So let me bring him up. I've talked enough. Let's bring Tom Martin up on the stage. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you. Hey, Ray. It's always such a pleasure to be with you. A very, very generous introduction there. Thank you.
Well, I kind of get ahead of myself because I adore you so much. I've known you for so long. And I just want to tell everybody everything about you. But I'll let that unfold as we talk today.
Okay. We do go way back. This will be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
We do. Well, let's start from way back. I found you back in the day. We're talking, I don't know if it was 2009, 2010. I was surfing online and I just written my first book and I wanted to get some PR for it. And I was searching publicists and you came up. I've told you this. The one pictures sell like crazy and pictures say more than 1,000 words, right? I saw your website and there was a picture of you, not only with Rod Stewart, but with Paul McCartney. I'm like, oh my gosh, Paul McCartney. Where's your phone number? How do I get a hold of you? And it just started the ball rolling. So talk to us about your early years and how you worked with some of the celebrities that I saw you when I first got attracted to what you do and maybe who you knew that I needed to know.
Fantastic. Well, it's funny. You touched on a couple of things that are really important to me, and I think that maybe your audience would appreciate as well. And one is you are a person who had that desire, like, I have a message. I have something I want to share with a wider audience. I want to make an impact. What's the next step? Where do I go with that? And so many people have that natural desire. I mean, every once in a while I've run across somebody who said, oh no, I want to keep a low profile. I never want to see my image on TV. Or it's like, but I think most of us, and it's not really, and you're such a great example of this. It's not like I want to, put myself up on a pedestal or something. It's like, I want to get out there and I want to really make a difference. I think from the lessons I've learned through my own, unique life experiences, I have something that other people can benefit from. And those are exactly the kind of people that I love working with. And I think that's really a natural desire. It's funny, way back in college, which was many, many years ago, I majored in philosophy. And I remember reading something like the ancient Greek philosophy of Plato. And so, Socrates would go walk into, he'd be talking to the young student, they're walking. And it's like, they're so enraptured. The student doesn't realize they're wading into like ankle deep water and then waist deep water. And then the next thing you know, Socrates plunges the student's head under the water. It's like, what the heck is going on here? And he's struggling a little bit. And then he lets him up. He said, when your thirst for knowledge is equal to your thirst for oxygen, then we can talk. And I think it's that desire, similar kind of desire. Like, I want to be heard. Some of it is appreciation. We all like to be appreciated.
Yeah.
But I think even more than that, it's like we have some unique wisdom, all of us, every one of us, that can make an impact. And I think, it's funny that you mentioned Paul McCartney. That was certainly a fun project that I worked on along with Diane Sawyer at Good Morning America. It's so funny. I'd only been there for a couple of months. That was early 2021. And my friend
Where?
Ann.
ABC? Where
That
were you
was
working?
ABC News in New York. Good Morning America, exactly. And so my boss, I stepped into the job fairly recently, and she said, Tom, we've got something for you. Who's your favorite rock star? And so, of course, I said Mick Jagger, and she said no, but Paul McCartney is amazing. He's still amazing. And so I ended up producing a 5-part series about Paul McCartney, featuring his interview with Diane. And it was interesting because I was very new to the show. Like, here I am being called into Diane Sawyer's dressing room, more or less. It's like, okay, Tom, so what are we going to ask Paul McCartney? It's like, well, Paul McCartney's been interviewed 2 million times, since the early 60s. And Diane, I didn't say, Diane, I'm kind of intimidated by you. You're a celebrity yourself. Oh my gosh. But it's like, okay, well, how can we bring out some stories? Everybody has stories. And I think much like you and your amazing and inspiring book, Paul McCartney has some stories. And when you kind of tap into those emotions, about creativity, and he paints. Some people don't know that Paul McCartney loves to paint, and he's even done some rock albums that are very, maybe like, I don't know if they're heavy metal, but I mean, they're different from pop melodic, and so there are different little sides to him.
Cool.
And and he loves talking about the people, like we all do. We love talking about the people who've been important in our lives, whether that was John Lennon or Linda McCartney, or he told me where some of the so he said there was a night watchman at Abbey Road's studios, and every time the young guys, they were in their 20s then, came in to record, 6 p.m., whatever, something like that, that said, hey, the night watchman was from Jamaica. He said, so we would ask the night watchman, how's it going? How's it going, man? And he'd say, obla di, obla da, life goes on, brah. And so that's where that song came from. So
that's so cool.
Isn't that funny? So we all have stories. And whether, I love how, your mission is give people the higher profile recognition that we all deserve. But even all of us, whether we've got that recognition yet or not, we all have stories that other people would enjoy and could learn from and stuff like that. So
for sure. Oh my gosh, you had my heart, Paul McCartney, and that story. And I love the way you brought out a story, because you on purpose said, he's been interviewed a million times. What can we bring out that's different, that's new? And that's what business owners need to do. They need to pull out what's different, what's new. You might do the same old thing as 100 other people or 1,000 other people, whether you're a realtor or an author, whatever. There's bazillions, right? But what makes you different? What makes you unique? And getting in PR, and when I wanted my book to come out, mine was about being able to sort of thrive through cancer and domestic violence, not just barely make it. There was a message. It wasn't about, look at me, look at Aurea. It's like giving them hope, which many of your clients do the same thing. They want to give hope through their stories, or they want to promote their business, as they should, because you can't get clients if nobody knows you're in business. It's like having a ice cream shop, but the doors are closed and nobody can see you're serving ice cream back there, but the curtains are closed.
Absolutely.
Just open the curtains, let them know they're there. And those who love ice cream will come in willingly, but you open the curtain for people. So it's not boisterous. I know women, we have a hard time with that. We think, I want to talk about myself. Do you have a cause? Do you relieve a pain people have? Then that's where we focus. And let's get you on the airwaves so more people know about your nonprofit or your book or your business, which actually solves a pain, because that's what businesses are for. You solve a pain.
Yeah.
Whether you have beauty products, or whether you have your realtor, whether you're a massage therapist, whatever you are, you have a service. And more people need to know about it. So I love Publicist, and I love what you do, because you're right up in there in the heart of it all, being in New York, Connecticut area, and you're really good at what you do. Let's talk about this. I do with a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of small business owners, not the big corporations that have billions of dollars and marketing budgets and teams, but that solopreneur entrepreneur that wants to make a difference, and they want to be celebritized. Has it changed a lot since the pandemic, getting PR, getting on the air? Because I know a lot of things just kind of changed in TV world, but talk to us about how you can help the entrepreneur, and maybe what's changed since the pandemic, to be seen and stop being the best kept secret.
Sure, absolutely. No, that's a great question. That's a big question. I'll address it as best I can, from my years in the business, of course. I would say that in some ways, nothing has changed. And in other ways, everything has changed. And so what does that mean? Well, it means that, great stories are timeless. I mean, people are interested in fellow human beings. People are interested in, again, you mentioned your book, and, your really inspiring hard journey, and you knew that if you could spare other people some pain, that you perhaps endured along the way, that meant the world to you. It wasn't like, hey, can I sell 100,000 copies? It's like, I want to help people. People need to hear what I can share with them. And again, you mentioned the ice cream shop analogy. When I've worked with clients, maybe they haven't done that many interviews, or they're kind of intimidated by the whole idea, like, oh my gosh, next Tuesday I'm supposed to show up in the TV studio, and they're going to be the bright lights, and they're going to say, okay, you've got 4 minutes or something. Like, it's like, well, don't think like that. And often with people, especially when they're kind of new to that experience, they think, I want to sound like this person, or I want to sound like that person, or I really admire that person has it all together, so I'm going to try to be like that person. I mean, one of my favorite quotations, I love quotations, is from Oscar Wilde: "Be yourself, everyone else is already taken."
Yeah, I love that one. I love that quote.
Be yourself. And so when we talk to somebody maybe with feeling a little of that stage fright, so to speak, it's, what is that core message? As you said, thriving above cancer, breaking through and being free of domestic violence in your life. That's a message that you can share with others, because so many people feel like, hey, maybe it's only me. I don't hear people talking about these challenges very often. Yeah. Am I all alone? Am I the only one? And then it's really a gift that you're giving to raise your profile, to let others know you're not alone. Let's talk. And so
I like that you said that, for everybody to think of their message or their business as a gift to other people.
Absolutely.
Whatever it is, it's a gift. Absolutely. And they need to know that you want to hand it to them, to as many people as you
Absolutely.
can.
So on the one hand, nothing has changed, and that people love people who are determined, or have a dream, or have overcome adversity. I have a friend. Absolutely. Yeah. I have a friend who was a professional tennis player for a number of years on the circuit, not a famous name or anything. I think he was ranked number 150 or something like that. But the Wilson Tennis Company hired him to go around and interview the stars, Pete Sampras, Serena Williams, and so on. And I remember him telling me, hey, Tom, something interesting. It's like every one of these tennis stars kind of hit a wall. They were up and coming, showed some promise and so on. But then something happened to them, like, that really tested them, and they broke through, and then they became a champion. And so I said, every one of them is remarkable. And I think in our own lives, it's like, people don't usually walk around talking, well, some people talk around constantly talking about their problems, and that can be a little much. We're all sympathetic to that, but we all have challenges. Yeah. And by bringing our expertise, solving problems, exactly right. Like you said, it is a gift. And as far as how things are different, I think maybe people's attention spans are a little bit more fragmented. Exactly. I kind of, it's like my dad was a very successful newspaper editor during his career. And I kind of miss the days when newspapers were more plentiful in our lives, because it'd be one thing, say, I'm going to take 15 minutes, I'm going to look through the newspaper. And if you're flipping pages through the newspaper, you'll probably come across an item or two that you'd never even thought about. Like, wow, isn't that interesting? And I guess we can still do that a little bit on, Instagram, and TikTok or whatever, but I don't think it's quite to the same degree that we're delivered like a cornucopia of new ideas that we hadn't really thought about. It's kind of like, I know I'm interested in this, so I'm going to go to this source, and interested in that. So it's changed a little bit there, and more, and also I guess I would say that more outlets want to charge for the airtime. I mean, I had a
the pay to play.
A couple of years ago, I was working on a cryptocurrency project. It was fun, traveled, and it was kind of stimulating because it was kind of a very new field. And the CEO of that company ended up paying, if you remember the supermodel, who is it again? Kathy Ireland. Yeah, Kathy Ireland.
Kathy. Uh-huh.
Who is a very successful entrepreneur. She has a furniture line and so on. She has 2 shows. And so my client, the head of this cryptocurrency project, ended up paying Kathy Ireland and her team, I think it was $40,000 for a 5-minute interview. They bought time on Bloomberg and, various other things, but it's like, it was not, I believe in earned media. I really believe, just like every one of us has a message and a story that others can benefit from hearing, if we strategize about it, like, how is this timely? Coming out of the pandemic, it's like, things are challenging in the world right now. So maybe people, are experiencing more stress, or
Right, right.
they want to know how to have a meaningful conversation with their children or something. So a lot of us have an expertise. So if we pay a little bit of attention to what's in the headlines, what are we going through right
Yeah.
now, we can tailor it to make make it timely and relevant, and then we shouldn't have to pay for airtime, basically.
Right. Now, you're right, because there is a lot of pay to play out there. I mean, even the stages, I'm a speaker, and it's gotten so where the speakers now pay to be on the stage when
Right.
not too long ago, they paid us to be on the stage. And
Exactly.
I like earned stages. I still am able to do that for free because people want me to be on there. But with that pay to play type of scenario, you like earned PR. Is there hope for the entrepreneur that's saying, oh, my budget is small? Can they get really good earned PR press time? Is it in print? Is it online? Is it still on TV? I know you took me to Good Morning America live in person. You still had that backdoor pass.
Sure.
You met Brandy. We had a great time. So you have the best connections. So what is the hope for the people listening that are saying, well, what can I do if I don't have the big budget to be on the Bloombergs or the Good Morning America? Talk to us about, can you still earn some? And is it affordable for a solopreneur?
Absolutely. As you mentioned, maybe in the introduction here, you talk about connections, and it's like, hey, Tom is so well connected and so on. And the thing is, we can all, you're an amazing connector yourself, as we know. So it's like we can all cultivate the connections that are relevant to our lives. I mean, you had your great series about all kinds of amazing nonprofits. So you were really known in that area. And I've been to, your live events where, you celebrate those, again, you're very selfless and shining the spotlight on them. So you're known in all those communities. And I think that, as I mentioned, when we're talking offline, I've started doing some coaching and, live kind of mastermind style courses online for kind of quote unquote, do it yourself PR. And one component of that is, well, how do you cultivate these connections? And, it was probably a couple of decades ago that people were using the phrase content is king. Well, content is still king. There's, whether it's a podcast or a local interview show. I would assume you're always looking for interesting people with thoughts to share that your audience can learn from. So, imagine that, there's all kinds of people out there, whether your focus is parenting or animals or education, whatever the case may be, there are shows that really need the content, and that hasn't changed. And also in a way, a lot of the news outlets, whether it's a national network like CNN or a local television station, in Atlanta or whatever major city, often they've cut their staff significantly. Their eye is on the bottom line. Like, what's this costing to put our stuff on the air? Well, therefore, you can be even more helpful than ever if you have a good story and you know how to kind of present what you have to offer in a way that, like, we love that. That's perfect for our audience. Our audience is going to love that. They appreciate you, and that, the doors fly open.
What are some of your success stories, like some that kind of come to mind of clients that you had that really just hit it out of the park? You got them just the right shows or just the right, articles and just the right magazine that really catapulted whether it's their book or their business, that it really made that difference.
Sure. Well, one example I've been thinking about a little bit lately is I was hired a number of years ago by two ladies who were therapists in Los Angeles, and they had self-published a book. They'd done some focus groups and gathered information from their own clients. And it might be kind of a silly title, but an important title, an important topic: Mean Girls, Meaner Women. And, remember the movie Mean Girls. And so it's like, again, even today, this year, we hear stories about, girls bullying girls in the high school hallways, and, mental health is more important than ever right now. And, I guess I can't speak firsthand, but I've certainly heard that sometimes in the corporate world, there's, women undercutting other women. Shouldn't we all be on the same team and supporting one another? But sometimes there's that undercutting factor. And so, so I got them a nice segment. It was probably only like a 5-minute segment on CNN. And that was
5 minutes is a long time. People don't realize 5 minutes on a CNN show. That's a long time.
And one question I get from authors, for example, is, should we tailor our PR campaign to the publication date. If it's like October 21st or something, is that the key week? And there's things to be said for that in terms of like higher visibility on Amazon and so on. But in the case of these two therapists who I just mentioned, I think we got this interview maybe 2 years after they released their book, and it was a self-published book. It wasn't, distributed by Random House or anything like that. But it related to bullying. Bullying was in the news then. It's still to some degree in the news right now. So they had wisdom from their own professional experience. And, I'm not saying that everybody should write a book, but I bet that you experienced this yourself, that if you do have a book, it helps open doors. And so that's what worked. That's what worked in the case of these two experts.
What did that do for their business being on CNN?
Well, they were able to attract more clients. It's funny, so many of us, and I think you'd agree with me, it's nice to have our businesses grow and prosper in terms of the dollars on the bottom line and all that. It matters. We appreciate it, but that's not the number one factor for us. The number one factor for us is making a difference in people who need help. You mentioned again, some of the people, they get into whatever kind of business because they want to provide solutions. It's interesting. I forget if I mentioned earlier, but, I was a member of a BNI, Business Networking International group. I live in Connecticut. So in this area, probably like for 15 years, and going to weekly meetings. And at every meeting, one person would stand up. They were in the spotlight and talk with chiropractor, realtor, what have you. And it was always interesting to me that their choice of profession was really inspired by something that had happened in their childhood, or they were motivated to, Malcolm Gladwell talks about how experts put in 10,000 hours, and that makes them an expert, but it's through passion. They're drawn to do it. And so I think that's true in every profession, whether you're a plumber or a piano instructor, it's like everyone, there's a reason. And so those that's where you find the great stories,
Really, they really do. And if somebody's going to say, okay, I've got a book, or I've got this business, I want to get some more eyeballs on it. You mentioned, 2 years later you got on. People have to know you got to be in it for the long haul. You can't expect somebody. I remember I used to work with a magazine, one here in Atlanta, and they wouldn't even sell advertisement unless it was minimum of 6 months ad, because they said you're just wasting your money if you do it for one time. People see you once and then you disappear. The people have to see you and hear you, and you have to do that PR for months at a time to build up. And then look what happened 2 years later. So you just never know if it's going to be 2 weeks, which has happened, or 2 months, or 2 years. So they kind of have to stick with it and make it their long-term marketing strategy, which never ends when you're a business owner. You never stop marketing. Coke never stops marketing. Pepsi, Heineken, Budweiser, Matt, they're household names, but they never stop showing us their brand. It's just everywhere. So they have to keep in the people's eye. How much more does the solopreneur, the entrepreneur, need to stay in people's eyes? So if they want to go and do something now, is there some tips you can give them? Because you said some they could do a little bit on their own, but if you were to say, what's some of the biggest mistakes people make when they go on the air? Let's say they have a TV spot. They're going to be on, whether it's just local news or local morning show in their local town. What's some of the biggest mistakes people don't know that they don't know, that you and your coaching can help them do better?
Sure. Well, yeah, excellent question. Well, two things come to mind, and I think they're both important. One is that, keyword, was it Sesame Street or Mr. Rogers said, the word for the day is succinct. How can you make it tight? I'd mentioned the 4-minute or 5-minute TV interview. And so when you're pitching your story to, an assignment desk editor, or the executive producer of a TV show, or the articles editor of a magazine, and so on, or, the host of a podcast, it's like you might be tempted, like, this is my moment. And I know you, Aurea, you're such a multifaceted person. Imagine it's like this, if you felt that urge all bottled up, like, I'm just so eager to communicate, and somebody is listening, suddenly, they pick up the phone, or you're literally in the elevator, talk about elevator pitch. And so you might be tempted to talk about the 20 things that you do. Well, that just is like, they feel like they've been run over by a steamroller or something like that.
About us.
It's like they don't even know how to get a handle on that. They're just confused and a little disoriented. It's like, but if you'd mentioned one thing, and again, I mentioned how stories are timeless, but to write a press release or a pitch, You want to be timely and relevant, coming out of the pandemic, or at a time when, there seems to be kind of a little bit of global turmoil going on. How can
Yeah.
we, reinforce those bonds with our kids? Or, a million economists are saying, hey, there's a recession coming. How can we be immune from that and continue to prosper? And so it's like, what is our narrow focus? And if you do 12 different things, start with one, because the journalists, this so well, and you demonstrate this on your show, I'm sure, is if you start with the one thing being useful, narrow focused, laser focused, and then say, wow, that was a really great guest, or that was such a pleasure to have that person on our show, they're going to want to have you come back again. I mean, I know you're a regular on so many platforms, but I mean, it works that way. So being succinct is one.
Yeah.
And then give me just a second here. And the second one, I mean, people have probably heard this, but it's a trap that so many people fall into. It's when you do have that moment to tell your story, especially if you're new, you might want to go on and on about, the awards you've won, or how this is the third generation of family business, or how you were named, X of the year. It's like that's all great. But as you said earlier, that doesn't relate to the problem that somebody's out there. We all go into business to provide solutions. So try to, put yourself in the shoes of that person that you want to connect with, and it does bring income in. So it's beneficial, but I mean, it's a genuine human desire to be of service and to say, let me paint a picture of where they probably are right now. And, those are two things,
Those are great. And I'm sure you teach them, because you coach them to do this too. There is a lot of coaching need to be done to talk in sound bites, to talk in concise sentences, where you allow the interviewer to ask you questions, even though it's 5 minutes. 5 minutes is a long time when you're on the news. I mean, you can tell a whole story front to back in 5 minutes. Watch your news. You'll see all these segments. The world news tonight, I think it's like 3 minutes and there's a commercial, 3 minutes and there's a commercial. It's like all chopped up. I know, it's crazy. And it's really important to be able to talk like that. But you're so right. It's not about us. Never pitch yourself or never go on anything all about who we are. It's more the pain we solve, what the solution is, and who are you solving this problem for. I tell my clients, you don't want to be on every podcast. You want to find the ones that have the audience where you solve their pain. It's not all women. Is it women over 50 suffering belly fat after menopause?
Right.
That's now you're going to get more results than, let me just talk to women. Eventually some of them will have this problem.
Yeah.
Maybe not. And we were talking about solving their problem before, when I was talking about being timely in the news is so important. When I did my book, and when the radio shows, everybody back in the day wanted me to be on, it was this topic that came up. Why do women stay in abusive relationships? And I probably was on 100 shows right out of the gate, because everybody was so confused when Rihanna got beat up by Chris Brown in the elevator. She got a black eye or something. We're talking 10 years ago or something like this. And everybody wanted me to talk about this, because my topic was, why do women stay? Because she didn't leave right away. And nobody could understand, why is she still there? Yeah. So it's such a hot topic and so relevant. So it's really important. I love that you said that. Find hot topics in your niche. If it's real estate, what's happening right now in real estate? Is it a buyer's market, a seller's market? Flipping? Should you have an Airbnb, VRBOs? All sorts of cool topics now. So what do you think about like Google searching yourself? Not Google searching. You do that where you Google alerts. Do you do things like that? Does that help?
Absolutely. Yeah. A friend of mine who is basically an SEO expert was mentioning that to me, and a few other experts I really respect mentioned the same thing. Is like, if you put in keywords, if you're starting to think, well, what would my pitch be? What would my press release be? And think of, the field, or the little, maybe in the second word be a little bit narrower aspect. And you see, Google gives you all those default to fill out that phrase, to complete that search. And so, they're ranked in the order of what people are asking. So, I mean, to be perfectly honest, I think I need to do a little better job of marketing myself a couple times.
We're marketing everybody else.
That's right.
The kids don't have shoes.
I know, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, but a couple times as we've been having this conversation, I've thought about how you are so good at I don't know, it's not exactly drip content, but it's like cross platform. You are conscious of social media, you are conscious of television,
Everywhere.
and so on. And so,
Podcasting,
yeah,
everything.
yeah.
You
And
don't have to be everywhere, but focus on like your niche.
I think we can all do that, and each little post can be, a helpful, a little narrow focused, addressing a question that we often receive or something like that, and providing the answer. Sometimes I've run across clients, and it's like, again, one story that comes to mind is a couple of years ago, I met a fellow. He was a relationship expert. He'd written a book, and he'd come up with, I forget what the acronym was, but it's like a formula for really great, happy relationship. And I said, okay, well, we can get you some interviews. People are very interested in that topic. And he said, well, but I don't want to give it away because then they might not hire me. And so it's like, if you're hoarding your information, basically you're not being helpful.
Right.
And you can't really hope to connect with the audience out there. Whereas if you are helpful and you give everything away, and you think, oh my gosh, I've given everything away. Trust me, if you're an expert in your field, you haven't given everything away, or there's no way for anybody to hear everything you have to offer, even if you think you've given it all away.
Right.
But by this person, the relationship expert, putting a filter on what he felt comfortable sharing, it was very hard to get any wider recognition.
Isn't that funny? Don't you agree that it's like writing books? People write how-to books all the time, and people never read them. They sit on the shelf. You can give people all your information today, and 1% of them will take action on their own. The rest of them need you. They need to hire you to help them take action, to put that into fruition, to walk them step by step, whether it's one-on-one, which is your higher ticket, or in a group. I mean, your dear friend Tony Robbins and all them know this. Tony's written a million books, and I listen to him all the time. I'm not going to get anything done unless I actually have one of his coaches or have somebody in his world walk me through it, especially if you're going through something big that you really need a breakthrough.
Right.
We need each other in this world. So I don't think you can ever give away too much for free unless you give away like a secret ingredient, secret recipe of some sort.
Right.
That's different. But you can give them all, look, again, with people like Tony Robbins and Jared Robbins, all of them, they give so much. And Maria Forleo and Mel Robbins and Oprah and all the greats are giving of knowledge, but you still would pay anything to have them hold your hand, even in a group setting, to walk me through for 90 days to get the end result.
Yeah. I think, part of it might be that, us human beings are social creatures. We like being in connection with someone else. So if we're like given, dump an encyclopedia on somebody, say, go get educated. Are they, it's like,
school. Yeah. We'd love to give books to our kids. Say, go ahead, good luck, graduate.
I know, exactly. So coaching, I know so many coaches, and, you're an amazing coach. It feels good to be in that, human to human relationship. You know that somebody's checking in on you, and that like you want to push yourself to do a little bit more than you might do if you were just left to your own devices. And there's a lot of factors like that, I think.
Absolutely. Well, before we get into a little bit more about who you love to work with the most, we want to let people know really who your ideal client is and how you can help them. Let's go down memory lane just for a second. What are some of you, because you've worked with some really cool people, like I said, the Rod Stewarts, the Diane Sawyers, just so many really neat people. Do you have any fun memories of working at Good Morning America or any of your big places you worked in that really just make us laugh or make us feel more endeared to some of these people? They work very hard. They make it look easy. You make it look easy. But we know that it is not an easy job giving the news or being a host or giving any information out. It's not an easy life. It's not an easy job. But you all make it look easy, and you're there. And like Good Morning America, look, my favorite show, is shining the spotlight on so many great people day after day after day after day.
Right.
Any great memories? Any fun stuff from those days?
Sure. Well, I'll tell you the first thing that comes to mind. It's, a couple of weeks ago, I was very sad to hear the news that my friend Jimmy Buffett had passed away.
Yes, I know you know him really well.
It was interesting. I grew up in South Florida. I was a South Florida kid. So, really grew up on his music. And I love storytellers, as I'm sure you know. And so Jimmy was such a classic storyteller. And much like, another fellow I think of as my mentor, Charles Kuralt, who was the host of CBS Sunday Morning for so many years, he loved kind of eccentric characters, not just button down people, CEOs or whatever. He loved characters. And so Jimmy Buffett certainly loved characters. And when I had a chance to go to, was hired by Charles Kuralt to go to work for CBS Sunday Morning, they weren't, currently they do some more celebrity stories, which is fine. I enjoy them. But in those days, they were rarely doing, it was almost like anti-celebrity, if, not, us humans are interested in celebrities, obviously. But I said, we really must do a story on Jimmy Buffett. So I got the okay on that. And so I learned about different aspects of his personality, flying in the seaplanes that he loved, and some of the characters that inspired him. When he lived there in Key West, for example, there was the great actor from years gone by, Richard Burton. His father, Philip Burton, apparently was a Shakespearean expert who happened to live in Key West. And so one of Jimmy's mentors was Philip Burton, the Shakespearean scholar. And it's like, because, one time when I visited Jimmy at his hotel in New York City, he invited me up to his room, and he was working on his first novel. I think he'd written a book of short stories, but his first novel. And he showed me his system for keeping it all organized and so on. And, exactly what you mentioned a minute ago about, people who can make it look easy, but they really just pour themselves into it. He worked really, really hard. I mean, now, of course, we have our chain of, Margaritaville restaurants. They even have.
I love those places too. My God, one of my favorite. We have one here.
That's right. So it's like, legacy lives on. But so it was wonderful to spend a few weeks with him producing that story. And
what's the name of that book?
Well, that one, I mean, again, it's years ago, but I think it's called Who Killed Joe Merchant? And I think Joe Merchant was a seaplane pilot because he loved the Grumman Mallard seaplanes from World War II. And in fact, he inspired me to do another CBS Sunday morning story on an older guy, Dean Franklin, who ran a chain of those old World War II seaplanes from Key West to Miami, Bimini, and so on. Again, a character. And then again, I knew another character in Key West who was a saloon keeper. Captain Tony is his name, Captain Tony Terracino. So I was very close to him. And when Jimmy was just a kid starting to play the guitar, for tips or whatever, Captain Tony took him in. He wrote a song. I mean, people who were crazy about Jimmy Buffett, like I am, might remember the song "The Last Mango in Paris," but he wrote that in tribute to Captain Tony. So Jimmy, encouraged me to seek out more of these characters and stuff like that. So, there's still a lot of people like that who I think, Aurea, if I remember correctly, you and I some years ago were talking about the on-air television guy who did all the odd jobs, right? That people like that.
Yes. Oh, who's that? Oh my gosh.
But you know what I mean.
Oh my gosh, I do. That was so much. Was it Dirty Jobs?
Yes, exactly.
Yes, Dirty Jobs. I love that show. Oh my God, he does voiceovers and everything. It's so great. Oh, that's so cool. So this has been so much fun talking to you. I could talk to you all day long. So much fun. That's why we've been friends for so long. And you're so interesting. You help so many people. And I love, Tom, that you've come from this world with these big A-list celebrities. You're so down to earth. And now you're helping real life people. They're all real life people, but you're helping the entrepreneurs. You're helping the small author who's self-published get on major like CNN. That wasn't a Random House author. That was self-published. So you give people in, I want to say the real world or the entrepreneur world, such hope that PR is for everyone. And you were talking earlier that, you can, reach out, you can pitch, but it's always best to go through a publicist. You have greater impact on them opening up an email. You've got rapport. They see Tom Martin. They know you. They open you up. I know I deal with a lot of people here in Atlanta, serving on the board of governors, the Emmys. I know the newscasters. They see me. I can just get to them. We got their cell numbers. They're always looking for good stories too. Although there's so much bad news, they're always asking me, Ray, if anybody's got a good news story, let us know. So we can plug that in. But other people aren't going to know that. They're not going to have that connection. It's going to be a longer road, a harder road. And people need to know your story, but they're not opening it only because you haven't gotten the right key to open that door and get those right journalists to open up the email that has your juicy story or your juicy business in it. So give us some last minute advice as we have to close up in just a few minutes of, again, the entrepreneur, the book owner, the brick and mortar that needs to get more PR. What's some of the things that you can do for them to help them get the job done, save them time? Actually, you're saving money. It does cost, it's a marketing budget, but again, in the long run, how much is their time worth? Do they want to spend the next 5 years getting somebody to open their email, or you can do it in one shot and they're on CNN faster than they ever could imagine, or Fox or Good Morning America, wherever it is.
Right, exactly. I mean, again, I wouldn't say, they're colorful characters, but I've worked with a couple, financial planners and CPAs and so on over the years. And when they get media coverage because they've offered helpful information, their current clients appreciate them and know that they've made a wise decision to hire that person. And then
Yeah.
they're often able to raise their prices, or, we were talking about speaking opportunities. It's like with that recognition, it's like getting media coverage is kind of a stamp of validation. Like this person has something worthwhile to say.
As seen on TV, that holds a lot of
Yeah.
power.
So one thing that comes to mind, and I don't know if this is, exactly what you're looking for, but I've always been intrigued with the idea that, we are all unique. I mean, even if we're a realtor or, website designer, whatever the case may be, there's always many different facets to our personality and what we enjoy doing. So if we have that core facet that we really want to speak about, in an interview, and we're also, we also love rock climbing or, French cuisine. It's like the sky's the limit. But again, from, one of my friends here in Connecticut who teaches kind of brainstorming or ideation, he talks about that combination of the old and the new, or, one facet and another facet. And that cartoonist, the Dilbert cartoonist, I think Scott Adams, who I heard interviewed on Timothy Ferriss's podcast, which is really always interesting. He said, again, it's combining two things. And if we can find the two things, the core thing and something else, a lawyer who, plays, classical piano concertos or something, it's like,
That's a great idea.
Because again, if your pitch, and some things are kind of silly, like, well, what does this have to do with anything? But if you kind of think it through, it can help you create your pitch so that it really sinks in. It's like, wow, this is a unique person, because
makes it different. They love the unique.
We're all unique. We just have to think about how we're unique.
I love that. I used to teach a course, Profit for Being You, YOU, big gold sparkly letters. There is no other you.
I love it.
So it's really important to do that. Now, here's a question. Do you help your clients get, funnel through all the stuff? Because I know when I came in, I just had all these different things going, and you really did help me focus on one thing to get the ball rolling. And also what's relevant right now, what's hot in the news right now, whatever that is. Do you help them decipher all through that? So when they call you, because we've got TomMartinMedia.com, the website up, hope people get in touch with you. You put your phone number right there on the website so people can call you, get a hold of you, and have a call. But will you help them if they're not even clear on what story they should tell and they've got a whole bunch of things going on?
Absolutely. I love doing that. I mean, the reason, in some ways, PR can be a little frustrating, because even with my many years of experience, some of the times the doors I knock on, there's no response, or they've already covered that angle or something like. But I never get discouraged by that. I look at it as a creative challenge. So when people come to me and said, "Hey, Tom, can we do a little brainstorming together?" I love the creative process, and that's really what keeps me going. So I definitely invite people to contact me. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and something else you do, because I know you so well, I know your business so well, and I'm so pro have a publicist. Saves you time, saves you money in the long run. But that you just mentioned something kind of in something you just said, that if you're pitching yourself and you think you know what you're pitching, and you do this, you're pitching your business or your story, and you get either no answer or rejection, people like Tom can get the answer why it was rejected. They may tell Tom, say, we don't need that right now. We just did a story on this, this, and this. But if he does this, this, and this, let me know. Or if you ever have anybody that does it in this way, let us know. So you can get more information where you can cultivate it again and repitch. See, so instead of just going with the rejection or a no answer, you can find out more about, okay, we need to massage this story in a different way, because they already had it put this way, but they haven't had it put this way. And you bring this to the table and they want that.
Exactly.
So I feel like that really makes a difference.
Exactly. As maybe a comparable analogy, you might have experienced this. It's like someone who does become a client to work with you. They said, "Yeah, I've been following your social media for 3 years." It's like, well, I've never seen them like anything I did or comment. It's like, but no, I've been following you for 3. It's like, really? So there's people. So journalists are the same way. You come one kind of narrow angle relating to your expertise, and you hear nothing. Come out with a different angle the next month, and it's kind of like with that repetition, you get on their radar screen. So it's like one day they're thinking, we need a person who's an expert in such and such. We need them tonight. it's like, oh yeah, it's that person who sent me 6 press releases on different things. It really works that way, you know.
And that's so good. That's so true. That's so true. And by having you on their side too, you can get them more timely. Let's say they sent in their pitch a month or two ago, and now they're looking for somebody who does exactly what you do. Now you're way down the bottom of the emails. They don't remember to get back to you because they get hundreds a day. You're right there in their face saying, I have your person. Here they are. They pitched you last month. It's a perfect fit. You need them now.
Exactly.
So,
And I love going into my kind of digital Rolodex, like, here's the person you need to contact, because, and we can all learn that, but it does take time. So, you know, I encourage people, you know, do it yourself PR, try writing your own press release, try thinking who are the journalists you like to follow. And if it's your field, you know, pitch them and so on. But again, if you have, you know, many years of experience, you can kind of shortcut that chase, basically.
That's what people are. That's what mentors are there for, to help you shortcut, help you not make the mistakes, go down the right road, make things happen bigger, better, and faster.
Yes.
But yeah, I talk to people, you can always do your local. You can see which newscasters are doing stories that talk about what you talk about, whatever that is.
Right.
Sure, you can't do that. But if you really want the bigger stuff, then, you know, get in with the big crowd. Let me ask you a last question as we wind up.
Sure.
How is AI? You talked about writing a press release. Now, back in the day, that was a big deal, but now we're getting these AIs going. What do you feel is happening with AI? And is it a legitimate way for somebody to say, I'll whip together a press release. I'll just go to, you know, ChatGPT or something, give them some info, let them write it up. How is that affecting your business and the PR world in general?
Well, it's so funny, you know, I've learned from a number of people who teach ChatGPT and AI. And it's kind of like, you know, to put it in one sentence, it's like you'll never have writer's block again. However, what you need to do is don't just accept verbatim what pops out of ChatGPT. So you can say, you know, can you please suggest 10, you know, interesting, timely, and relevant angles for, you know, parenting your teenage children or something like that, based on, you know, psychology articles, parenting books, and so on. And so it'll pop out, you know, or give me 30 of them or something, bullet points, one sentence for each. It's like, oh, these 3 look the most interesting. So I can structure a press release talking a little bit about why in this stressful, you know, sort of, you know, pitch,
right,
pump into ChatGPT what you are looking for. And then, you know, maybe ask for a lot of possibilities, and then you pick and choose, and then you make it your own. And you say, you know, and I know there are programs like, can you make it a little more humorous, or can you use slightly more playful language, and so on. But I mean, so it's very, very helpful. I've started using it a lot in recent months. But I would just say, don't just defer to it. It's like, I asked for this, they gave me this. This is what I'm going to run with. Like, don't stop there, you know.
So it's helping. So that's a good thing, because I know you can take all that and say, now write me a press release that would be favorable for CNN versus favorable for a morning show. It would be 2 different types of, you know, tones and sound. So then massage it. And always, again, as we said this the whole show, adding your own uniqueness to it, adding your own spin. But I know it's really important how press releases are written. Like, I'm not a good writer, so I would never attempt to put a sentence together that would be professional. I'm auditory. I love to speak. You know, to check my spelling that way. But even checking spelling, the grammar, and the way a sentence is put together, when to break up the paragraphs, has all been totally confusing for me.
I will say, and I know we're getting near the end here, but a friend of mine, my friend Nellie O'Brien, used to speak to, you know, at medical junkets, 150 doctors flown to Miami to learn about a newly approved, you know, drug or something like that. And so we would do little breakout rooms. And in the main presentation, she always said, and I forget the exact statistics, but something like, the impression that you make in an interview, 7% is the words that you use, you know, 50% is your emotion and so on. And the remaining, you know, 43% is your body language or what have you. So it doesn't mean like, oh, I'm really going to fake the body language because I heard that's important. But it's like, all that comes from sincerity and authenticity, and I guess some practice. I wouldn't over practice so that you're, you know, robotic or anything like that. But I mean, seriously, only 7%. And you know, I mean, when I'm writing a press release or pitch or something, the words matter. I know, but it's more authenticity, passion, emotion, a real genuine desire. People can tell when you have a genuine desire to help them. I really believe that.
I really can. I remember Mary Kay Ash used to always tell us that you can say all the right things with the bad attitude in a bad way and nothing happened. You can say all the right things, you can say all the right things with bad attitude and nothing happened. You can say all the wrong things, but with the best attitude and everything happened.
Yeah, that's
So
amazing.
it's not always knowledge based. It's your enthusiasm, it's your passion. It does come out. You don't have to be perfect. Done is better than perfect. So I'm just a real advocate to always have mentors, always have coaches, always have somebody that's ahead of you in all these different areas, pockets of our life, whether you need a financial planner, whether you need the publicist, whether you need the coach, whatever it is, because none of us are a one-stop shop. None of us do everything that needs to be done in everybody's life. We're not Yoda, right?
Right,
So we all need each other, and I love that. So I think it's fun to find people that you resonate with. You like their connections, you like their personality, you're able to work with them, they work well with you. So that's why I like to bring people on my show, so people can just get to know, like, and trust you and say, yeah, I want to have that call. I think this is something I want to explore. And I'm so glad for the internet when I was able to find you and Paul McCartney on the internet so many years ago. I can't forget Rod Stewart.
Well, I'm grateful too. You're certainly one of my favorite humans. I love your authenticity and your passion and enthusiasm. It brings joy to my world. So I'm very, very grateful.
Thank you. You were one of my wrapping up, but you were one of my speakers at my Live Your Legacy Summit before the pandemic stopped events, and I haven't gone back to it yet. But you're really empowering on the Live Your Legacy Summit. You helped the charities. You brought your game as far as bringing people to PR, helping them understand PR. So it was so great to have you there. And you had a charity you were passionate about then as well, which I know you're a big philanthropist. So let's close out with my favorite question, Tom, because you were part of my Live Your Legacy TV. You're part of my Live Your Legacy Summit. How do you want to be remembered? What do you hope your legacy is, Tom?
Well, I would say, again, studying Tony Robbins' work for so many years, he often talked about his mentor, Jim Rohn, who was a great speaker. And I went to a live Jim Rohn seminar way back in 2004. And Mr. Rohn said, someday I'd like my children and my grandchildren to be, walking along the beach here in California. And they said, oh, I recognize that last name. Or, I learned from him, or he helped me, and my career has really taken off. So if I can remind people that every one of us has a gift, has a message, as wisdom that others can benefit from hearing, if we just bring it out and amplify it a little bit, I will feel really great that I've helped a number of people do that in the world. And that, so there I would be leaving the world a little better for me having been here. That's how I look at it.
I love that answer so much, Tom. That's such a great way to end the show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. If anybody, I just encourage you, if you're looking for this, if you need more of what Tom is talking, Tom is the real deal, known him many, many years, TomMartinMedia.com. Like I said, his phone number is right there. Give him a call. I did all those years ago, and we've been friends ever since.
That's right. Well,
once you click.
Yeah, well, this has been so much fun. I love what you're doing, and I'm cheering you on. This is really so much fun. Thanks for inviting me today.
Thank you, Tom, so much. I hope people get all of you. You're a great coach. You're great at PR. You got it all going on. Thank you so much for everything you do. So, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, this is Aurea McGarry and now Tom Martin signing off from Get Celebritized. Hope you've learned a tip or two so you can earn more, live more, and give back more. Thanks for being here. Bye for now.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, everybody.